Hey friends, and welcome back to our channel. Do you want to know what it's like to live in Utah if you're not Mormon? Then stick around because we're going to discuss that right now.
But before we get into the meat and potatoes, we just wanted to emphasize how much we do appreciate it when you guys reach out to us. Seriously, it means the world to us that you take the time to ask us questions, to leave us comments. So if you are thinking about relocating to the Northern Utah area, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We'd love to help you out with any questions or concerns you might have before you make your trek out here. So feel free to reach out using the contact details provided. Let's go ahead and get connected to make that transition a lot smoother for you.
If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about living, eating, sleeping, working, and playing in Northern Utah, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market here in Northern Utah.
We are Sloan and Kim Peterson with the Peterson Group, and we've been in the real estate business for 10 years, and every day we help people just like you looking to buy, sell, and invest or relocate here to Northern Utah, and we absolutely do love it. Whether you're looking in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. All of our information is in that description below, so we can help you make that smooth transition here to Northern Utah. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Now, this is a question we get all the time from people looking to move here to Utah. What is it really like living in Utah if you're not Mormon? Now, we hesitated a little bit to make this video because, as you know, what it's like to live somewhere is a very personal experience to each person, and because this can be a touchy topic, to be quite frank. Also, as real estate professionals, we are unbiased when it comes to helping people buy or sell real estate. So in terms of what areas are like, we give our clients resources to do their own research. So just as a disclaimer to this video, all of these are just our own perspective, our own opinions, and our own experiences about living here and growing up here in Utah as a non-Mormon.
All right, so just a little bit of a background is I did grow up Utah, and half of my family, on my father's side anyway, are LDS, and I have been to church services, so I'm very familiar, with the religion. My mom, however, was not LDS, so her family was, but she kind of was the one that told me, you can kind of go to whatever church you would like to, and when you're old enough, you can make that determination on, what church you would like to belong to. So I did get to, experience church life, and also got the freedom to kind of, not experience that, just to kind of see, what I like the best and what I wanted to choose, in my own personal preference there.
So my background and experiences, I actually grew up in Denver and had never heard about or knew about Mormonism prior to moving to Utah. I moved here in high school, and that was kind of my first experience with the religion or knowing people who were LDS. So again, that being said, any information in this video is just our own experience and should in no way be taken as fact. Everyone should do their own research when considering where to live.
So one thing to note that if you do visit Utah or end up moving here, locals do refer to the LDS church as the church. So when people refer to that, or if we refer to that in this video, we're talking about the Mormon church. So one question that a lot of people ask me is, how did it affect my school experience? Like, what was it like going to school, as a non-Mormon? Was I outcasted? Was anything a little different there? And, to be quite honest, it's going to depend on the school. It's going to depend on the county, maybe even, and not to stir you from, one county to the next, but there's going to be certain counties that have, more of a higher percentage of Mormons, members, and so maybe some of those counties you might experience a little bit more religious pressure, but then some counties have a high, percentage of that religion and don't act that same way. So people are people, right? You're going to find people that are, a little accepting and people that are less accepting, depending on where you're at. So my experience personally growing up, my mom did like to move a lot when I was a kid, so I was a new kid all the time starting in schools, all the way from Logan, Utah to St. George, which is, the furthest north, the furthest south. And I did experience, sometimes where as a child I was outcasted a little bit, not necessarily because of the children themselves, but we'd be playing, and then, once their parents would find out that I wasn't of that religion, all of a sudden I just wasn't able to hang out with that kid anymore. And I do understand that, people want to be, with like-minded people and all that, and I understand that 100%, but as a kid you don't really understand, why or what's going on there. So, I actually started probably hanging out with other kids that were also not Mormon, not because I was trying to segregate myself from that religion, but just because we were kind of growing up with the same sort of things as far as, you know, not going to church on Sundays and just kind of a little bit being outcasted a little bit because of we weren't of that religion. So that was kind of a little bit of my experience, you know, growing up. And the older I got, the less it didn't matter though. So as I started getting into the high school and things like that, and the colleges especially, it wasn't really a contention point. And one more thing I'd like to state is the last 10 years, in my experience, I feel like Utah has started to diversify in a lot of the ways. So a lot of that I kind of felt maybe as a child probably has changed quite substantially, and you might not experience that as much anymore.
So like I said, I actually didn't move here until I was in high school. So as far as being friends with other kids, I only ever had one instance where a girl wasn't allowed to hang out with me outside of school because I wasn't part of the church. And I think like Sloan said. So I think for me, the biggest difference that I actually experienced having moved here from an area that there wasn't really a dominant religion. So like in Denver, there wasn't really any one dominant religion, was just how much of a presence religion had in the school or maybe even in the state. Not necessarily in terms of talking about it in the classroom, but there is seminary, which was different. And if you didn't attend, everyone kind of knew that you weren't Mormon, which at my old school, no one ever really talked about religion or kind of knew what you believed or practiced. So that was a little different for me. In terms of the dress code, that was definitely different. I think based more on the religious beliefs here, maybe. I remember my very first day of school, I kind of wore like a normal strap tank top, and a teacher actually pulled me aside and told me that she would have to send me home if I ever came dressed like that again, because you kind of need the thicker straps here. So that was kind of my first experience of it being a little bit different culturally speaking. And I did have, you know, kids try to talk to me about coming to church or bearing their testimony and things like that. But I had a lot of friends despite not being Mormon. And I think, like you said, it's quite different now. It's a lot more diverse. I don't think there's as much of maybe the cultural even differences as there was when I first moved here in terms of, you know, the religion.
All right, so what is it like, you know, in my adult life? So that's kind of another question. I feel like people ask, you know, from what was it like as a child versus what is it like, you know, as an adult. And honestly, like I said before, I can honestly say that, you know, as a child, I probably experienced, you know, a little bit of that confusion or, you know, inclusivity, like a little more than I did as an adult. As an adult, honestly, I haven't really noticed much of a difference of my day-to-day life. I don't feel like I'm held back or given anything more from being Mormon or not Mormon. So I also think that a lot of people just assume that I'm Mormon as well, just because I kind of look like I am from Utah a little bit, and you know, I'm always well dressed, and I'm not someone that's out swearing in public and things like that, or smoking cigarettes or whatever like that. Not that if you do that you're either Mormon or not Mormon, but I just feel like a lot of my values and a lot of my stuff kind of aligns with the culture that's here really anyway, on the most part. You know, I think, you know, some of the things as far as the laws and things like that are a little bit strange, but overall, on my day-to-day life, I don't really experience much of anything. The one thing I would state is if you start a new job, things like that, people always do come up to you and kind of ask you, you know, what ward are you in, or things like that. And that's something that when I have friends outside of the state, that it's not really, like Kim said before, like when she was in Denver, it's not really a topic that you really talk about openly like that. And I feel like in Utah, it is a very openly discussed topic, or like if you're in like college classes or whatever, you will see people talking about religion maybe as an instructor or whatever. And that's just something I really haven't experienced, you know, outside of the state. So you do feel like, I guess I would say, innuendos of religious pressure, but overall on a day-to-day basis, yeah, I don't really experience anything at all really of being Mormon or not Mormon.
So for me as an adult, it honestly doesn't affect much of my day-to-day life, kind of the same as what Sloan said. A couple of things I think that are maybe a little bit different is I do have tattoos that show. So I think just from that level, it's pretty obvious that I'm not Mormon, because that is something that the religion kind of frowns upon. But, you know, like Sloan said, it's never really hindered me to not be Mormon in anything I've ever done. I have many, many friends that are LDS, and I think it just boils down to mutual respect. I respect their religion, their values, how they choose to live their life. And personally, my friends do the same for me. They never push their beliefs on me or anything like that. I think for the most part, the things that affect me more are state governed, kind of like Sloan said, which we'll go into a little bit here in a moment. But overall for me, especially because I really don't know anything different in terms of being an adult, I came into being an adult here in Utah, I don't really see a difference. I think in my college years or maybe even in my early 20s, it may have affected me a little bit more differently, but today it doesn't really have any weight in anything I do, the fact that I'm not Mormon here in Utah. So in terms of the state and how the state is different because of the religious element, we do have the different alcohol laws, which we've talked about in many videos, but the biggest kind of daily influence with that, I would say, is not being able to buy hard liquor or wine in the grocery stores. Another thing is the lottery not being here is in part due to the church influence not agreeing with gambling. And another influence the church kind of has on this state is Sunday closures. A lot of things are closed on Sundays, whereas maybe in other states that's not the case. And that's kind of what I would say is more of an influence based on the bigger population of Mormons that are in the state. And because they tend to lean conservative, it's just a bigger influence in politics and laws and stuff like that in the state, as it would be with any big population inhabiting any state.
So in terms of daily life though, obviously we both love Utah and haven't really felt any sort of big issue or problem with being a non-Mormon here and how we want to live our life and our lifestyle. It really hasn't affected how we live our daily lives, and hopefully that gives you guys some sort of insight into what it's like living in Utah as a non-Mormon. And of course, as we stated before, this is just really our own personal opinion and our experience, and everyone's experience with what they've dealt with here is valid, and we just wanted to give you the kind of perspective that, we had.
We hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Picking where you'll call home is an important decision, and we would love to help you make that smooth transition to the northern Utah area. If you're looking to purchase in the northern Utah area, we would love to help you out. Give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. And like always, we are keeping it real. Estate.